I used to tell people, I don't care who sells them.
Yeah.
I want to build them.
Yeah.
And so I built. I can't think of all of them, but Mans and Strike King and Hedden and. Jim had a curly tail worm before that. It was
I forget the name of it too. Yeah. I actually have some at the house.
Springtail.
Yep,
Springtail worm.
Springtail. Yeah, it was the mold was. Yeah.
It wasn't the mold.
It wasn't. Or did he just let him?
He would take each one of them, pin it to a dowel, turn it, and put a heat lamp on it, and let it take a set.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, geez is right.
Oh my gosh.
Let it take a set.
If you had just put it in the mold that way, we wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, but.
Yeah. Well, so he started out as a pork rind guy.
What happened? The story I heard was I heard this from his father-in-law. I like to tell it as true because it makes a good story. He was an electrician, and he was working with his father-in-law, who was an electrician, and you're supposed to drive a ground stake into the ground like 8 feet.
Mm-hmm.
He said Jim would drive it in on an angle about 4 feet and bend it up. and I don't know that that's true, but that sounds like Jim. But he did some work for this pork rind company, and they couldn't pay him, and so he started doing it, and that's how he got in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing that and punching out these pork rinds and selling them, and Rapala brought in their
minnow,
the Rapala bait, and he said, I can do that. And he started building those, and he got into Bangalores, and he started off just a local, Bangalore company, and then the Big O came out, and he was already doing balsa wood stuff, and he says, I can do that too, and he started doing that, and it was a couple of years after that I got involved.
Yeah, it was originally called the Big B, right? Because it was only the 4-inch version.
Big B. Yeah.
Then he had the B3, and then he had the B3, and he ended up calling the Big B the B4.
Mm-hmm.
But the plastics, did he do the plastics before he got into the minnow stuff?
Yeah. He was doing. After he started doing the soft plastics, and again he was just kind of a regional guy, like all these guys started. And I think the one that really got him going was the Bangalore, and then what really was the balsa bee. That's what really set him apart. And then it was a couple of years after that I went to work for him.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Sisson worked for Jim Bagley from 1974 through 1985 before he set off on his own to start Sisson Lures. Here are Lee's thoughts of going from an employee to an employer. And he also talks about several of the companies he helped along the way.
How was that? Going from working for someone to being your own boss?
I gained a lot. I had all the respect in the world for Jim. When I started sitting on the other side of the desk, I gained even more, because you realize that, hey, it's not just building the lures and that kind of stuff. The biggest thing is you got to make payroll. Jim, we had at times we had 250 people working for us. We were building 25,000 lures a day. He was responsible for every one of those families.
Yeah.
And that's something you people that don't sit on that side of the desk don't have that responsibility, don't realize the weight that's on your shoulders, because Jim, just a really good person.
Right.
And he took all that personally. When he had to lay somebody off, it hurt him.
Yeah.
And I understood. When I got in that position, I understood it too.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest headache you had.
Right. So you start Sisson, and what are the baits that you're going to come out with when you start that? Because you're probably not going to want to compete directly.
Well, I told Jim that I wouldn't build any balsa wood lures as long as he was alive. So I built wooden lures, but it was made out of a wood called jelly-tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was something that we had started making. We made our musky lures out of, because it's a little bit tougher wood. It's not quite as light, but it was a real good product to make lures out of. And so I used that until after Jim died. Then I built some. After Jim died, I started building some balsa wood lures again.
Right. But also, when you took off on your own, you're starting to do some consulting work or building design work for other companies.
I found that what I used to tell people is, I don't care who sells them.
Yeah.
I want to build them.
Yeah.
And so I built. I can't think of all of them, but Mann's and Strike King and Hedden and.
So you were building the man's wood bait.
Yeah, I built it was some little pig looking thing.
Yep.
I don't remember which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one. And it was an easy way to get sales and get cash flow.
Right. Yeah.
So I was able to do that. I built them also for Walmart and Bass Pro and Cabela's. And those were some good companies.
Yeah. Well, and anybody could look at a bait, even if it's in a Walmart package, and they knew that you had something to do with it, because
I got that call all the time. Yeah. Hey, are you building this son?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Lee Sisson lure. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. In fact, I had the molds made with an insert, and I would just, like Mann's, I had a man insert. Strike King, I had it. So I just tell them, put that insert in it and run it for so long. And I'd have Mann's lips, or the same lip, but it had say Mann's on it, or Strike King, or Sissin.
Yeah. What was it like working with Tom Mann?
Tom, all these guys, I was real fortunate that I got into this business when I did, because I got to watch this industry grow up. It went from a mom and pop to a corporate. I like the mom and pop a lot better, by the way. Yeah. But Tom was an innovator. Good businessman, good, real good designer. I mean, what can you say? I mean, with all the stuff that he did. Yeah. I grew up fishing his stuff. You know, the worms, the jelly worms, man. Or
the Little George.
Little George, man. You'd go in and you buy a card of them. We used to call them the Ray Charles Born to Lose baits because we're fishing Toledo Bend, and we used to kill them on that. But
they got hung up quite easy.
Yeah, they did. But he was one of the stories that I like tell. We were sitting in a restaurant one time, a restaurant bar, after a tournament, and we're all sitting together, and we're sitting at one table and he's sitting at another, but we're all, just we'd talk to each other a little bit, and then we'd talk amongst each other. And I'm sitting there, and we have this worm that has a curly tail on it, and I'm sitting there, and I take the swizzle straw and I start punching holes down this the tail, and I look at it and go, I bet that really changes action. I see Tom go. And next thing I know, he's got this worm with holes in the tail.
Yeah, the manipulator. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but I mean, it's our industry. These guys were guys that we competed against. Yeah. But they're the guys we had dinner with too. I mean,
so like Bill Norman and.
Yeah. We used to go out. One of the stories I tell, and I can't remember the guy's name, but we'd go do an in-store promotion, and we did in-store promotions all over the country, and we'd always end up at the same ones for somehow. He had a van, and I had a van. I call it an old van because it just had so many miles on it. It wasn't that old, but had a lot of miles on it, and we'd see each other all the time there, and we'd bet lunch on who could sell more product of the other guy. So I'd be standing there in my Bagley shirt, selling Rebels, and he'd be standing there in his Rebel shirt trying to sell the same guy Bagley's. The guy's real confused.
Yeah, a little bit.
What happened though, and this is a story I heard, I can't say it for sure, but it's probably true. He went off, both Bagley's and Pradka wanted us to get rid of our vans, because they were old, and they wanted us to get something. But these were, mine was called Moses. We had names for it. Because it was going to take me to the promised land. And I don't remember what he called his. But what I understand is they sent him on a trip And, you know, he parked it at the airport. They went out to the airport, took it to a car crusher and crushed it while he was gone.
Oh.
And bought him a new one.
That's funny. That is funny. So you also had a wood project with Hedden. How did that come about? And that was in 1988.
They just called me and said, "Hey, can you build some wooden lure?" They were trying to build. It was called a timber rattler. They were trying to build a wooden lure.
Yep.
And they just couldn't do it. You know, it's their expertise was plastic and mine was wood. And
yeah,
they
which is crazy because they started out as a wood company.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
70 years prior.
Yeah. And they wanted to build some of the old stuff. And I said, sure. So they sent me all this equipment down there, and it was great because I could rob parts off of it because it wasn't worth it. Wasn't any of the stuff that I used, but
yeah.
I robbed a lot of parts off of it, getting stuff that I could use. But yeah, they sent me the mask for doing the paint and stuff like that, and I did use that like on all the different lures.
So because you did a spook.
Yeah, we did a spook.
You did a crankbait, and you did I think it was 2 crankbaits, wasn't it?
We did. I don't remember. We did a bunch of stuff for them.
Yeah. And how was that collaboration? How long did that collaboration last? A couple, 3 years?
I don't remember.
Okay.
You'll find out that I'm not real good with years and exactly when all this happened. I'm not even sure when I started and when I quit, but I think I do. I think I know. My wife keeps telling me when it was. So she's probably right.
Oh man. So after that, I mean, so you had Sisson Lures for 20 years. So 1985.
It was 23 years.
23. So 2008.
Except for 1 year, Charles Spence. I had helped a company set up a manufacturing plant down in Guatemala that Charles was getting his Strike King wood baits from. Supposedly, that's the way it was going to work. And he got an order for like 500,000 of them from Walmart, and the plant burned down. And now he's in a bind.
Timing.
And he called me and said, "What can we do?" And I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do, Charles. I will just lease you my whole facility. You pay the payroll and pay me a decent salary, and we'll get those." He said, "You can build that many?" I said, "Yeah." He said, I think we can." He says, "I tell you what, if you build 500, if you can build the 500,000 in the time," he says, "I'll give you a $10,000 bonus." You know, and back in that time, $10,000 was pretty good chunk. Today it's still a good chunk, but back then it was a pretty good chunk.
It was a boat back then. Now it's a finder.
Yeah, not even a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I said we can do it, and so we built lures for him, and that was the only year we didn't build any Sisson lures that year. And we constantly, because it was everything we could do to get that done, and it got him out of bind because Walmart's not real good at not having product on their walls.
Yeah.
And so we got him out of a bind. And at the end of the year, I had made plenty of money, and we had built 514,000 lures for him.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to say a word.
Yeah.
Check just showed up in the mail. I mean, and that's the way it was. You know, you talk about handshake. We never even shook hands. He says, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to it.
Yeah, it isn't like that.
That's the way it was back then, you know.
That's the way it should be.
It is the way it should be.
Unfortunately, it's not that way anymore. Yeah.
Charles was he was a real innovator too, but all the time I got calls from him. One time he called me up and he says, "Man, I'm getting behind on my," back then skirts were made out of rubber. So I'm getting behind on my rubber skirts. Can you build rubber skirts? I said, "Yeah, how do you do it?"
So that was something that Arbogast innovated back in the late 20s or early 30s.
So I started building rubber skirts for him. And during that time, this guy came to me. I guess he had heard that I was doing to it. And he had this new material, and it came on rolls, and it was real thin. It was what was in the elastic of
pants?
Of underwear.
Okay.
You know, that little bitty
latex. Yeah.
Silicone's what it is. And he brought all these real nice looking colors and everything. And he says, "This stuff would be really good for spinnerbait skirts." And I started playing with it. And I said, you're right, it would be. And I figured out how because at that time it came on rolls, and I was gonna take, you know, the different, have them all set up on a thing, and depending on what color, you pull it down through a tube and you roll that thing on it. You know, it'd be real easy to wait. I had it all figured out how to do it. And I called Charles, and I said, man, I got this stuff. He said, well, send it to me. And I sent it to him, and he says, that's pretty. He says, but that's just way too expensive. That stuff will never work. Yeah, Charles missed on some stuff too. But now they do it. But like I said, these guys, when I came up through the industry, these guys were all buddies. My wife used to get mad at me because I'd get calls all the time from competitors. This paint's bubbling, or this is happening, or this won't work, or it won't run right, or stuff like that. And you know, and I'd help them. She said, man, you're helping our competitors. I said, yeah, but they're my buddies too, you know.
Yep. Cool.
That's the way it was. When I first got in this industry, it was a bunch of guys that were all started off as mom and pops.
Lee was also lucky enough to have met and worked with Lew Childre, the man who single-handedly changed the face of bass rods and reels. Here Lee talks a little bit about those innovations and the man Childre was.
Lew Childre's. The story I heard on him, he was stationed in Japan right after the war. He was too young for the war, but he was stationed there right after the war. And he saw that they had this way of straightening cane. You know, if you look on the old cane poles, how they looked like it was burnt, that's because they were. Yeah. And they would do that and straighten it, and then they would heat it and kind of temper it too. So he started importing cane poles. And the story I heard was when he first came back, he didn't have a car. He didn't have enough money for a car. So he would take a bundle of cane poles and lean them against the bus and go and then reach out the bus and hold them out the window going from stop to stop. I don't know if it's true, but it makes a good story, and it sounds just like Lew Childre.
Wow.
Yeah, he
actually have one of his original cane poles.
Oh, yeah.
Foley, Alabama, still in the
in
the plastic wrap. Oh yeah. It's
well, he was over there one year. This is the year that I got into the industry. He went over there, and he saw these ceramic guides and the pistol grips and everything. He changed our fishing tackle, rods and reels.
Absolutely
changed it.
Yeah.
But he wanted to sell, when he came back, he wanted to sell it to Fenwick. You know, he had the rights to import the stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, I'll just do it myself. And so he made a deal with Shimano that as long as he was alive, that they wouldn't come in, you know, and he would import all the stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's how he got in the rod and reel business. But he completely changed the whole. You know, back before that, a rod might have weighed 15 pounds. I mean, they were heavy.
Yeah.
And nobody cared about weight, you know. And he brought this reel in. He says you can palm it, and I said, what?
Yeah.
You can do what? Why would you want to? You know. But
he started building speed gears, you know, to increase the ratio of a 5,000 or a 5,000C from 3/8 to 5:1.
All this stuff was the first show I went to. Well, first thing is we go in that first morning, the hour before you can get in, and we walk in, and there's this big banner, Rising Sun, that says, from the people who brought you World War II. Now that didn't go over real good. You know, because back then, you know, that was still pretty fresh. That didn't go over too good, but yeah, he changed it, and what happened was he ended up dying in a plane crash. Yep. And Shimano decided that their deal was done with him, and they came in and started.
Yeah, because they were designing the BB0 and right before the crash, and then in '79 they came out with the Bantam under the Shimano.
When I at that show, we go up there, and you know I've been with Jim maybe, you know, 3 or 4 months, you know. I mean, just wide-eyed kid in a candy store. I mean, I am going nuts looking at everything. And he introduced me, you know, to Lew and Jim were really good friends, real buddies. And he shows us this new reel, and all they have is prototypes. Got numbers scratched on the bottom of it. And I'll tell you why I was really stupid. He got numbers scratched on the bottom of them so he can keep up with them. They don't have them out yet. And he's showing them. And he pulls, and Jim hadn't seen it. This is the first time Jim's seen one. And he pulls it out, and he's showing all the stuff, and Jim takes it and looks at it, and I'm taking it and looks at it, and he looks at me and goes, "You like that?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, just keep it." Now, Jim doesn't have one. And I know the only reason I got one was so Lew could get over on Jim. Because Jim's looking at it. He says, "Just keep it."
Wow.
I sent that one back to him. They had a scratch number because the gears, he wanted me to try it with crankbaits. And the gears, at the time, the gears wore out pretty quick. And so I sent it back. I wished I'd have kept that one.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Can you send me another reel?
Well, I sent it back to them, and they sent me some more saying they have improved the gears and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wished I'd have kept that one with the number scratched on the bottom of it.
Yeah, that'd be worth a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, sir, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your Sunday morning.
It's my privilege. I was very fortunate, very blessed to have been able to spend a lifetime doing what I really loved. And it's because of all these guys we've talked about, the greats of this industry. You know, I got to know them all. I came up during a time when they were this industry went from being a mom and pop to being a corporation.
Yeah.
And I do like to thank all you guys out there, because you let me do what I really love to do. Let it be a living to me. My mom used to always ask, "When are you going to get a real job?" To the day she died, she wanted to know when I was going to get a real job. So I'm very, very blessed, very thankful for all you guys out there for making it possible for me to have the life that I've had.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.